Okay, welcome back. Second video of Module 8 Learning Piece, and for this one we're going from the equation to tables and to graphs and to situations. So you've kind of already had practice with writing situations for equations, so that should be a little easier. Let's talk about tables first. So remember that this equation gives us a few pieces of information. It gives us our slope, or rate of change, and then it gives us our y-intercept. And remember, your y-intercept is the value of y when x is 0, and that's super helpful when you are creating a table because you can start with 0 here, and then you can go 1, 2, and then you have your x values, and then you use the equation to find your y values. So when x is 0, y is -2. I knew that from my y-intercept. And then I'm going to use my slope to fill in the other pieces. You can also plug these into the equation, but we can also think about this as, again, change in y over change in x. So 4 is the same as 4 over 1. So this is our change in y, that's our change in x. So when I go from -2 to the next little bump here, because I did +1 as my change in x, I need to add 4. So that's going to make that a +2. And then again, +1, +4, 2, 6 is our next point. So that's going from equation to table. Once you have your table created, you can do your graph, or we're going to talk about how you can go straight from equation to graph here. So I'm going to just darken these lines so that we have our axis clearly labeled. That's going to be our x-axis, and then this can just be our y-axis. And then the first point I'm going to plot is our y-intercept. Again, we know this piece of information. Our y-intercept is the value of y when x is 0. So that means when x is 0, or when I start at the origin, I don't move left or right. I'm just going to go down 2 to -2. Okay, so that's my y-intercept. And then I'm going to use the slope to figure out my other points. So I'm not going to use the table for this example. I'm going to show you how we can use the equation to create a graph. So we have our y-intercept. That's the first step. First step, y-intercept. Graph it. Then we're going to use our slope. So again, we think about this situation here, 4 over 1. But instead of change in y over change in x, I'm going to think about rise over run. So to move from this point to another point, use these as directions. So remember, we can't move diagonally, we have to move at right angles. So that 4 for our rise, it's a +4, so I'm going to go up 4 points here. And then I go to the right 1 because it's a +1. That's our next point. We can check that with our table. We said that when x is 1, y would be 2, and that's the case. Okay, and then I'm going to use the directions again. I'm going to go up 4, and then right 1, and again we find ourselves at 2, 6. So both strategies, either creating a table and then plotting those points, or using the slope and y-intercept as directions for how to graph your line. Either way, you can create the perfect line that matches that equation. Finally, let's talk about the situation. So remember, we can think about our slope as our rate of change, and then our y-intercept as a constant. And these are usually easier to write in terms of money, so that's what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to say that Lisa has Lisa has negative $2 in her account. Negative $2 in her bank account. She did not take that financial literacy unit to heart. So Lisa has negative $2 in her account, and she saves, so she's adding to the account because our rate of change is positive. She saves $4 every day. She really realized her mistake with that negative 2. She's like, I'm going to save $4 every day. This situation describes that equation. We have here a constant of negative 2. And then we also have a rate of change of 4. For every day, days would be our x value. Every day we multiply that by 4, and then we subtract that 2 that was negative to get the total amount in her bank account, y. So this was the second video. It was pretty brief. Please make sure you took notes over this section. You are mostly asked questions on creating equations, which is why the other video is longer, but this helps you identify situations that don't match the rest because you're able to realize, oh, that doesn't match up. They did not follow the correct process. So please make sure you've taken your notes. You're going to submit a picture of your notes from these 2 videos that you have watched, and then you get to move on to the practice piece.